Okay, let's try this again. So today we're in Kitasa, which means when you take, and it is the 21st reading of the Torah, and it literally means when you lift up. It comes from the first words of the second verse of the reading, which could be literally rendered when you lift up the head of the sons of Israel and reckon them. The phrase lift up the head is an idiom for taking a head count. So important right now, taking a head count. Okay, you guys, this is key information. There's those who are going to be worshiping the golden calf right now, and then there's those who are going to be doing Passover. Okay, and they're going to be understanding the Passover. This is really important distinctions to make because this is the season of the head count, right? Before we head into the next season, right? The portion begins with instructions for taking a census, finishes up with instructions for making a tabernacle. So you count the people, take the census, and then you build the tabernacle. Okay. The tabernacle is built from the people, right? It reiterates the command of Shabbat and then proceeds to tell the story of the golden calf. The majority of Kitasa is concerned with the sin of the golden calf, the breach in the covenant between Yah and Israel, and how Moses undertakes to restore that covenant relationship. So we also go into Elijah and him calling down fire with the prophets of Baal. So I want to just notice the two distinctions of these stories being together. You've got true worship and false worship. That's the distinction that's going on. And so when we get into the prophets of Baal, I had some really unique revelations about something that I've been praying about and I've been praying for clarity on. And with this Torah portion, I got a lot of clarity on just on different topics in general. We'll get into that when we get into the Elijah part of the portion. So let's pray and we can begin the readings. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for bringing us all together today. I thank you that where two or three are gathered in your name, you are in their midst. And I just pray, Father, that you give us all insights, open our eyes and ears to your Torah, give us wisdom. I just pray, Father, that you bless each and every one of us on this broadcast today, that you bless us with healing, with understanding, with your counsel. May we stand in your counsel at all times. I pray, Father, that as we head into these days ahead and the things that are happening, the signs that you're giving us for your plans and purposes that you're about to unfold, I just pray that you direct our steps clearly, that you help us to veer neither to the right or to the left, that you reach each and every one of our loved ones with the message of repentance and the kingdom. And I pray, Father, that you just continue to heal us in every possible way. Heal our children, heal our families, heal our finances, heal every area that we are struggling, and give us new insights into all these things. I just pray, Father, that if anyone has sickness or ailment on this broadcast, that's lifted from them. I pray against spirits of depression and anxiety. I bind those spirits off of people now in Yeshua's name. I pray, Father, just bless my words, keep me from putting my own opinions in, and help me to only seek what you are trying to say to your people in this time. In Yeshua's mighty name, amen. All right. Okay, oops, crap. This thing is way too touchy. Okay. If I accidentally invited you, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's begin. We are in Exodus 30, verse 11.
The Lord said to Moses, "When you take the census of the people of Israel, then each shall give a ransom for his life to the Lord when you number them, that there be no plague among them when you number them. Each one who is numbered in the census shall give this, half a shekel, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs, half a shekel as an offering to the Lord. Everyone who is numbered in the census, from 20 years old and upward, shall give the Lord's offering. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half shekel when you give the Lord's offering to make atonement for your lives. You shall take the atonement money from the people of Israel and shall give it for the service of the tent of meeting, that it may bring the people of Israel to remembrance before the Lord, so as to make atonement for your lives. The Lord said to Moses, You shall also make a basin of bronze with its stand of bronze for washing. You shall put it between the tent of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in it, with which Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet. When they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister, to burn a food offering to the Lord, they shall wash with water, so that they may not die. They shall wash their hands and their feet, so that they may not die. It shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his offspring throughout their generations. The Lord said to Moses, Take the finest spices, of liquid myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet-smelling cinnamon half as much, that is 250, and 250 of aromatic cane, and 500 of cassia, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, and a hin of olive oil. And you shall make of these a sacred anointing oil, blended as by the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. With it you shall anoint the tent of meeting and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all its utensils, and the lampstand and its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin and its stand. You shall consecrate them, that they may be most holy. Whatever touches them will become holy. You shall anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may serve me as priests. And you shall say to the people of Israel, This shall be my holy anointing oil throughout your generations. It shall not be poured on the body of an ordinary person, and you shall make no other like it in composition. It is holy, and it shall be holy to you. Whoever compounds any like it, or whoever puts any of it on an outsider, shall be cut off from his people.
Okay, just interesting to note here. The instructions are really, really clear. Do not make this, and do not put it on an outsider. But what do humans do? What do humans do? They go in the head and they make it, and they post it on Etsy for sale. You can, it's just, I don't even understand how you could spend all that time reading the verse and then not know to not make it or make anything like it. You can just look it up. People sell this. Don't buy it. Don't buy this. And they make replicas of it to some degree. But the verse literally says, you shall not make anything like it, right? Don't even try. Don't even attempt to copy it. And so this was a really important thing that I was thinking about, how we're not even supposed to try to copy this and make a replica that's kind of like it. We're not supposed to take any of these ingredients and make a similar thing and use it, okay? Because it's holy unto him. Now, I want you to think about the false feasts that are being made and the false Sabbaths, right? Making Sunday a Sabbath and all this stuff that people do. And they make these false pictures. They make the false version. Now, if he doesn't even want you to make this oil and use this oil, how do you think he feels about people touching his Sabbath and moving it and maneuvering it, right? So how do we feel okay about that, right? The reason is these are things that are holy unto him. His Sabbath days are holy unto him. So to touch it and move it to a different day and to move it to a different hour is absolutely touching his holy things, right? That you should not be touching, okay?
The Lord said to Moses, Take sweet spices, stacte and onycha and galbanum, sweet spices with pure frankincense. Of each shall there be an equal part. And make an incense blended as by the perfumer, seasoned with salt, pure and holy. You shall beat some of it very small, and put part of it before the testimony in the tent of meeting, where I shall meet with you. It shall be most holy for you. And the incense that you shall make according to its composition, you shall not make for yourselves. It shall be for you holy to the Lord. Whoever makes any like it to use as perfume shall be cut off from his people.
Again, the same principle, but people do try to make this. They found some, I guess, at some point, they had found a little bit of this somewhere. I don't recall where, So some people did get to smell what this smells like, and they said it was a very powerful and beautiful smell. And so if you think about it, if you had the temple in Jerusalem and they had this particular smell, because smells are so powerful, this particular smell being burnt all the time, as you approach Jerusalem, you would start to smell that smell, right? And it would be this reminder of the place. It is apparently a very distinct smell and very strong. We're at verse 31:1.
The Lord said to Moses, "See, I have called by name Bezalel the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with ability and intelligence, with knowledge and all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold, silver, and bronze, in cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, to work in every craft. And behold, I have appointed with him Oholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. And I have given to all able men ability, that they may make all that I have commanded you, the tent of meeting and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is on it, and all the furnishings of the tent, the table and its utensils, and the pure lampstand with all its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, and the finely worked garments, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons for their service as priests, and the anointing oil, and the fragrant incense for the holy place. According to all that I have commanded you, they shall do."
Okay, so notice remember how I always say, like, things are in the order that they're in for a reason, okay? So we've just gone through the meticulous design. He's filled people with his spirit to make this meticulous design of craftsmanship of everything in the tabernacle, okay? So he's gone through that. He said, don't take things that I have made to be holy and try to replicate them. Don't try to replicate anything. Do it exactly as I said. This is the pattern that I want you to understand. This is a pattern that I want you to know. What is the very next thing he goes into? He goes into the Sabbath. There's a reason that these are in the order. He's telling you, this is the design. I designed this. I made it this way, okay? Now I'm telling you what to do. So we shouldn't be changing and trying to alter those things, right? So now we go into the Sabbath, verse 12.
And the Lord said to Moses, "You are to speak to the people of Israel and say, above all you shall keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you."
Okay, write down that verse. Everyone needs this verse. Exodus 31, verse 12 and 13. Or verse 13 is good. Exodus 31, verse 13. You speak to the people of Israel and say, above all, you shall keep my Sabbaths. Sabbaths, plural, because Sabbaths also include the feast days, okay? Feast days, high holy feast days are Sabbath days, okay? This is a sign, a mark between you and me. You shall keep my Sabbath because I am Jehovah who sanctifies you. Rome does not sanctify you. The Protestant church does not sanctify you. He alone sanctifies you. So you keep the Sabbath as a sign between you and him throughout your generations forever, so that you know that he is the Lord that sanctifies you, okay? This is why he says to keep his Sabbath. It is a sign, a mark that he sanctifies you, okay? Why does Rome change the Sabbath? So that they can be the church, give you all this false religion to sanctify you, to make you holy. It's fake. It's false. It's making the fake incense. It's making the fake oil, okay? They're selling you the snake oil. You know what I'm saying? The Roman church, keeping the Roman Sabbath, that doesn't sanctify you. They aren't the Lords that sanctify you, okay? That's why they changed it. They wanted to take the authority off of Jehovah and put it on them. So you come out of Jehovah's tent, his tabernacle, you come out of his, when you go and you're like, okay, Sunday is the Sabbath, what are you doing? You're saying, Jehovah is not the Lord that sanctifies me. Yeshua is not the Lord of the Sabbath. I believe Rome. So I'm going to go out of the tabernacle. We just went through the tabernacle design, right? I'm going to go out of the tabernacle that Jehovah created to show us who he is. And I'm going to run over to Rome's tabernacle and dwell under there. Okay. under their covering. Okay. That's what's going on. Okay. I have to make sure you guys get this because it's like the most important key understanding. Okay. He is the Lord that sanctifies you. It is a sign, a mark. Okay. It's a mark. That word sign, mark. Okay. Carrying on. I'll stop my rant now.
You shall keep the Sabbath because it is holy for you. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Therefore the people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath throughout their generations as a covenant forever. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel, that in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave to Moses, when he had finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone written with the finger of God.
Again, notice the order. Tabernacle, then we talk about the Sabbath. Now we're going to talk about the golden calf, right? It's this very solid picture. He's like, I'm giving you the instructions to build the tabernacle, the dwelling place for me. Okay, I'm giving you the instructions. Here's the Sabbath. The Sabbath is included within those instructions. Okay, now we're going to do the golden calf, right? It's very, very deliberate, the order of these things. Okay. I want to show you something really cool. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel that in 6 days Jehovah made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he was rested and refreshed. Therefore, the people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath throughout their generations as a covenant forever. That word forever is la'olam, which it sometimes translates into forever as like through all time, but it also translates, I have it written down here, as a sign for the world, So la'olam can also mean as a testimony for the world. And so you think about it, why are these people keeping this Sabbath forever and ever and ever? It's a testimony that Jehovah created the heaven and earth and rested on the seventh day. It's a testimony for the entire earth, right? And that's what that la'olam word means in a deeper sense. So it's not just forever, it's forever as a testimony, right? So let's move on to the golden calf, 32 verse 1.
When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. So Aaron said to them, Take off the rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play.
Okay, so just a couple little things that I always notice. They're taking off their rings of gold and all their stuff and burning it down. Okay, so note that for later. They're taking off all their jewelry, melting it, making the golden calf. So the people are saying, so the people are putting the pressure on Aaron. Aaron's the priest. They're at the time because Moses is up the mountain. So the people are putting on the pressure on Aaron, and so they are bringing him the stuff, and they brought it to Aaron, and they said, These are your gods, little g, gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So it's a very Egyptian way of thinking. They're still kind of in their slavery Egyptian mindset. Oh, we have all these little gods. They brought us out of the land of Egypt. They don't understand who the Most High God is yet. They're still struggling with that. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, Tomorrow shall be a feast to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Okay, so the word there in the manuscript is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. So the people are saying something different, but then Aaron's baptizing it in a way. He's like, oh, okay, if this works for you, then we'll just do tomorrow shall be a feast to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Very clear shadow picture of the things that go on in our world today. So note here too that Aaron is the one that received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made the golden calf. Okay. Now they rose up early the next day. When does the Sabbath begin? In the evening at dusk. Okay. So, but they rose up early the next day. And when they rose up early the next day, they offered the burnt offerings and brought the peace offerings. And they sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. A very picture of a very morning rising, doing your burnt offering thing, right? That would be probably what they were used to in Egypt, because there's a lot of sun god worship in Egypt and all that stuff, right? So moving on to verse 7.
And the Lord said to Moses, Go down, for your people whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way that I commanded them. They have made for themselves a golden calf, and have worshipped it, and sacrificed to it, and said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said to Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you. But Moses implored the Lord his God, and said, O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, With evil intent did he bring them out, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your burning anger, and relent from this disaster against your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have promised I will give to your offspring, and they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord relented from the disaster that he had spoken of bringing on his people.
This is kind of important to understand right now, I think, because we have this kind of impending doom being talked about with this eclipse. So what did Moshe do as a servant of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, right? Just like what did Abraham do? What should we be doing right now? We should be praying for the people that are still in Sodom, whether that's a metaphor, they're literally in Sodom, to exit, to be prepared, to come out of her, my people, right? So Moshe is this first picture of a Messiah, right? An anointed one who is interceding. Well, not the first picture, because Abraham did it too, right? But it's like this picture of one who's interceding for the people on their behalf, and standing in the gap, right? And so we can stand in the gap for our family and friends and all of those people as well, especially during this time. There's a lot of people that are starting to turn to Yah, but they just don't quite get it yet. They're not quite understanding everything. They're still making golden calves everywhere. And because they don't know him, they're still kind of in this Egypt mentality, right? This slavery mentality. So we can intercede for those people and stand in the gap for them, and intercede that they come out of Sodom, right? And when you're praying, this is a really good example of when you're praying. So you can bring up verses and remind Abba of the promises that he's given you. That's a really good thing to pray, is because it reminds you of the promises that he's given you, but it's like this exchange of like, I'm doing this, and you've promised this, and etc. That is the way that Moshe is praying here. He's interceding in a way of, you said you were going to build a great nation, all of this stuff, right? I also find it really, really interesting that it is a deep desire of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. It is a deep desire of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh to build a great nation. But he's not just going to build a great nation out of anyone. He's going to build a great nation out of the people who are submitted and calling upon his name and honoring his name and doing their very best to give great reverence to his name and his image. That's the great nation that he wants to build. He's not looking to build a nation out of people that are still making golden calves everywhere. He really wants a nation of people that call upon his name and understand his image, right? And so if you're ever wondering what his heart is, what is his heart? What is he trying to do with all of us? What is his plan? It's actually right in Genesis, one of the first Bereshit, the first letter in Genesis is a bet, which is a house. It's a tent, it's a dwelling, a tabernacle. And so what is his plan and purpose for all of this that we are going through? He wants to build a great nation of people who remember his name, remember his image, call upon his name, call upon his image, and build that house. He starts his entire revelation, his entire book with that letter, bet, the house, right? And so another interesting thing about the house that he's building, right? To understand what a son is like the father's arm that goes forth to build the house. So as the father builds a house, but then the son goes and builds the house even more, builds the kingdom even more. It's like an extension of the father. So that may help you understand the father and son relationship that goes on in scripture. Let's go down to verse 15. So at verse 15.
Then Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, tablets that were written on both sides. On the front and on the back they were written. The tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, engraved on the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, "There is a noise of war in the camp." But he said, "It is not the sound of shouting for victory, or the sound of the cry of defeat, but the sound of singing that I hear." And as soon as he came near the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, Moses' anger burned hot, and he threw the tablets out of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf that they had made and burned it with fire and ground it to powder and scattered it on the water and made the people of Israel drink it. And Moses said to Aaron, "What did this people do to you that you have brought such a great sin upon them?" And Aaron said, "Let not the anger of my Lord burn hot. You know the people, that they are set on evil. For they said to me, 'Make us gods who shall go before us.' As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." So I said to them, "Let any who have gold take it off." So they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf.
That is such a funny line to me. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Sure, Aaron. Sure. Okay. So the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments on them. In Hebrew, the 10 commandments are the 10 matters to Devar. So Devar are the 10 matters, okay? So the 10 commandments are 10 matters. In Hebrew, in Judaism, they say the 10 words, but it's basically 10 ideas that you need to be focused on, right? And so we've talked about how Yeshua says, what are the 2 most important commandments? Love the Father, love people, right? Those 2 can be defined in the 2 tablets, right? One, how to love your Father, Heavenly Father, how to love people, right? Those are the 10 matters. So they're not just 10 commands, as in like, these are the only 10 commands. They're matters, okay? So here's a matter of how not to build idols. Here's a matter of how to keep the Sabbath. So you take those 10 matters as they are broken down, and then all of the other commandments throughout all of Scripture. That's a really good comment. Aaron did the same thing as Adam. He blamed the bride, right? When the husband's supposed to be the cover. So Aaron was in the position of the covering. So he should have stopped them and did the right thing, right? Okay. So the 10 commandments are at the top. So 2 commandments, love God, love your neighbor, right? The 10 matters underneath, how to love God, how to love your neighbor, and then all the other commands, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever, all of them underneath that. Okay. Some of them apply to you. Most of them don't. Most of them don't. So don't get overwhelmed by that. Okay. Where was I? I find it really interesting that the story of the Grinch parallels this in a negative way. So in the story of the Grinch, where's the Grinch? Top of the mountain, right? And he comes down and they're all singing, but his heart is changed. So it's like Moshe is but Moshe comes down and his heart is mad, right? So it's almost like the Grinch is doing this like parallel little trickery. So that if Moses came down and said, no, you need to keep the commands of God, no, you're the Grinch, right? It's that same kind of parallel, which is really, really interesting. Because what are the people doing when they come down? There's a noise of war in the camp, but he said, it is not the sound of shouting for victory or the sound of cry or defeat. It is the sound of singing I hear. So what does the Grinch say? The Grinch says something about like not wailing or whatever and not crying. He was expecting to hear crying and wailing, but they were singing around the Christmas tree, right? And then the Grinch's heart grows 3 sizes that day. But Moshe comes down and he's like, no, and he cracks the tablet and he gives them the test of the adulterous bride. That's what I want to get into. Okay, so right here, he took the calf that they had made and burnt it with fire and ground the powder and scattered it on the water, and he made the people of Israel drink it. Okay, so what is the test for the adulterous bride? Let's go there. So he didn't have his heart grow 3 sizes that day and decide to put up a Christmas tree. He decided to give them the test for the adulterous bride. Numbers 5. Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if a man goes astray and if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him. So I want you to picture this in the understanding of Yeshua and Jehovah, our husband, that is our house, and we are the bride, okay? So the test for the adulterous bride is a shadow picture that runs throughout scripture. You see it in Zechariah 14. You see it in the golden calf, okay? So I don't want you to just picture it as like only like a husband and a wife in literal sense. Picture it in like a bigger church sense, okay? So that another man has had relations with her, and this is hidden from her husband, and her impurity is undetected, since there's no witness against her and she has not been caught in the act. If the feeling of jealousy comes over her husband and he suspects the wife that she is impure, so that he is jealous and suspects her even though she is not impure, so then he is to take his wife to the priest, that he may make an offering of 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour on her behalf. He must not pour olive oil on it or put incense on it, because it is a grain offering for jealousy. So it's a grain offering for jealousy, okay? She may not have done it. She may have done it. He might just be jealous. And a reminder offering, a reminder offering to draw attention to wrongdoing. The priest shall bring her and have her stand before Jehovah, and he shall take some holy water in a clay jar and put some of the dust of the tabernacle floor onto the water. After the priest has had the woman stand before Jehovah, he shall loosen her hair and place in her hands the reminder offering, the grain offering of jealousy, while he himself holds the bitter water that brings a curse. Okay, so this is actually where you get in Judaism the covering of the head. Okay, there's no command in scripture that says you're supposed to cover your head. It's only Paul. And when Paul is mentioning it, he's referring actually to oral tradition. Okay, I know that's going to trigger a lot of people. Paul is actually referring to oral tradition when he's talking about the head covering. There's no command in scripture about head covering, okay? This is where it comes from. It comes from the understanding that, and also Rebecca and Isaac and Rebecca, which she veils herself when she comes to see him, when she first meets him. So it comes from that, and then it comes from this, okay? He shall loosen her hair. So the image is the bride is coming before the priest, and her husband is no longer going to be her covering and protection. She's going to become uncovered and unprotected in this moment to face whatever's going to happen in this test, okay? And so we have to think about that in our bigger church picture as well. Okay, so what is the parable of the 10 maidens, right? The engagement has happened. The bridegroom is coming 5 made themselves ready, 5 were not ready, right? They end up being uncovered. They end up having to uncover themselves, okay? They lose their covering. It's the same picture as Laodicea. What happens to Laodicea? Laodicea gets spit out from under the covering, okay? So they're spit out of the tabernacle into tribulation to be tried and tested, right? Turn off. So that is the picture of the adulterous bride, right? So that's why the head covering thing exists, because of this. It's the understanding that if she's going out uncovered, that she's dishonoring her husband or whatever, right? So a really good understanding of this is like, if you're married and you as a woman were just like running wild, and not necessarily doing fornication, but like not considering your husband's point of view and respecting his image as well, right? Because a family together, your images are all connected. So how you behave is a reflection of your husband. How your husband behaves is less of a reflection of you, but sometimes can be a big reflection of you. Things change these days. Now it's a bit more back and forth. But in that time, very much, like if a woman was constantly being a troublemaker and constantly causing arguments and divisions and fights and all of this stuff, that would be making her husband look bad as well, right? And that was the time that they were in. And it still works the same nowadays, but to a lesser degree. It's more to a lesser degree now. Let's just put it that way. But that's what the image of the head cover is. So a single woman like me, right? If I'm coming on here, who am I covered by, right? I'm covered by Yehovah. I'm covered by Yeshua, right? And so I wear the head covering to remind me that I am covered by them, right? And so anything that I say and that I do, I want to be a reflection of their image. I don't want to be going off and doing my own. I want to make sure that I'm reflecting their image well, right? And that's what that reminder is for. So the offering for jealousy, well, he holds the bitter water that brings a curse. Then the priest shall put the woman under the oath and say to her, if no other man had relations with you, then you have not gone astray and become impure while married to your husband. May this bitter water that brings a curse not harm you. Remember in the end times, prophecies, what, a third of the water or something like that turns bitter, right? A bunch of the water turns bitter, but those who believe the bitter waters are not going to harm them. So this is the smaller picture of the bigger revelation, which is going to be that once all the water on earth is poisoned, those who have been maintained their covenant to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, they can drink that water and they're not going to be harmed, okay? If you have gone astray while married and you're to your husband and you've made yourself impure by having relations with another man other than your husband, worshiping false gods other than your husband, here the priest is to put the woman under a curse. May Yehovah cause you to become a curse among the people whom he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your body so that your abdomen swells and your womb miscarries. And then the woman is to say, Amen, so be it. And the priest is to write these curses on a scroll and washes them off into the bitter water, and he shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse. And this is the water that brings a curse and causes bitter suffering will enter her. The priest is to take from her hands a grain offering for jealousy and wave it before Yehovah and bring it to the altar. The priest is then to take a handful of grain and offer it as a memorial offering and burn it on the altar. And then he is to have the woman drink the water. If she has made herself impure and been unfaithful to her husband, this will be the result. When she is made to drink the water that will bring the curse and cause bitter suffering, it will enter her. Her abdomen will swell and her womb will miscarry, and she will become a curse. If, however, the woman has not made herself impure but is clean, she will be cleared of guilt and will be able to have children. This is the law of jealousy when a woman has gone on astray and makes herself impure while married to her husband. So that's the shadow picture that we were looking at when Moshe has the people, men and women, drink the powdered up golden calf water. Okay, so now we're at verse 25, Exodus 32, Exodus 32:25, I think.
And when Moses saw that the people had broken loose, for Aaron had let them break loose to the derision of their enemies, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me." And all the sons of Levi gathered round him, and he said to them, "Thus says the Lord God of Israel, put your sword on your side, each of you, and go to and fro from gate to gate throughout the camp, and each of you kill his brother and his companion and his neighbor." And the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses. And that day about 3,000 men of the people fell. And Moses said, "Today you have been ordained for the service of the Lord, each one at the cost of his son and of his brother, so that he might bestow a blessing upon you this day." The next day Moses said to the people, "You have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Alas, this people has sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will, forgive their sin. But if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written." But the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. But now go, lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. Behold, my angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I will visit their sin upon them." Then the Lord sent a plague on the people because they made the calf, the one that Aaron made. The Lord.
Okay, I want to just go through quickly. I want to show you guys. I don't know if we need to cover all that. So I just want to show some examples of golden calves that exist right now. I'm sure you guys will recognize this one. How to flip this? Okay, so this is one that I noticed when it came about, is this golden calf. And I think that this golden calf is going to arise again, and people are going to worship this golden calf again. So I wanted to point out this golden calf because it's definitely a picture of looking back at Sodom instead of looking ahead to the kingdom. Okay. I think this golden calf will become a really big feature in the future. I also wanted to look at, so this is still a very common practice, especially in India, where they worship the different cow idols. They're sacred idols to them, right? So that's still very, and then you saw last year when they did the bowl at the, I think it was the Commonwealth ceremony or something like that. They had the giant bowl during the month of Tammuz. They had that big giant bowl that they were all worshiping. I'm sure you all saw that video. As well when they did that. So let's look at, before we leave this section, because I do feel like it's really important, I want to look at the sin of Jeroboam, because this is something that kind of comes up. People talk about quite a bit. It's the sin of Jeroboam, and that is, you will find that in let me just see. Kings, I think. I had it all organized and now I can't find it. That's okay. I'll just look it up. First Kings 12. First Kings 12. This makes no sense. Let's just do it here. First Kings 12. Rehoboam went to Shechem, and for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. So remember that Israel and Judah are two kingdoms at this time. Okay, so Judah has a king, Israel has a king, and they're separate for a lot of the time. And so King David finally brought them all together. But then they've separated and been together, separated and been together. So there was a lot of separation. So when we hear the difference between Israel and Judah, know that those are two separate kingdoms at that time. Okay. As soon as Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, heard of it, for he was still in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon, then Jeroboam returned from Egypt. Okay, they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the assembly of Israel came down and said to Rehoboam, "Your father made our yoke heavy. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke on us, and we will serve you." And he said to them, "Go away for 3 days and come back again to me." And so the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men, and he stood before Solomon his father while he was yet alive, saying, "How do you not advise me to answer this people?" And then they said to him, "If you will be a servant to this people today and serve them, and speak the good words to them when you answer them, and then they will be your servants forever." But he abounded the counsel of the old men, and the old men gave him, and took counsel with the young men who had grown up with him, and stood before him. And then he said to them, "What do you advise that we answer the people who have said to me, 'Lighten the yoke that your father put on us'?" Then the young men had grown up with him. Then the young men who had grown up with him said to him, "Thus shall you speak to this people who you have said to you, 'Your father made our yoke heavy, but you lighten it for us.' Thus you shall say to them, 'My little finger is thicker than my father's thighs.' Now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, and I will discipline you with scorpions." So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, and the king said, "Come to me again on the third day." And the king answered the people harshly, forsaking the counsel that the old men had given him. And he spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men. "My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, and I will discipline you with scorpions." So the king did not listen to the people, and it was a turn of affairs brought about by Jehovah, that he may fulfill his word. The word which Jehovah had spoken to Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat, because Jeroboam was going to be anointed to be king of Israel. And when the kings saw that the king did not listen to him, the people answered the king, "What portion do we have with David?" David was king of Judah, right? And then Solomon was king of all of Judah and Israel. "We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse." We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. This is important to note because this is a very good mirror of modern Christian thinking now, right? What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Where does the root, the Natsar, the branch, shoot out from? That is Yeshua the Messiah. It shoots out from the root, the stump of Jesse. So these people are saying, what portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. So they don't want to be a part of that house, okay? "To your tents, O Israel, now look to your own house, David." So Israel went to their tents. But Rehoboam reigned over the people of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was a taskmaster over the forced labor, and all Israel stoned him to death with stones. And King Rehoboam hurried to the mount of his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel had been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. And when all of Israel heard that Jeroboam had returned, they sent and called him to the assembly and made him king over all Israel. So now it looks, I think you've got Rehoboam, which is a descendant of King David and Shlomo, right? I think. And then you've got Jeroboam, who's returning, and he's going to be made king over all of Israel. There was none that followed the house of David, but only the tribe of Judah. So only the tribe of Judah is following the house of David now, right? When Rehoboam came to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen warriors to fight against the house of Israel to restore the kingdom to Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo. When the word of God came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, that all the house of Judah and Benjamin and the rest of the people, thus says Jehovah, you shall not go up and fight against the relatives of the people of Israel. Every man return to his home, for this thing is from me. So they listened to the word of Jehovah and went home again, according to the word of Jehovah. So Jehovah told them to not fight against them. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim and lived there. And he went out from there and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom will turn back to the house of David if these people go and to offer sacrifices in the temple of Jehovah at Jerusalem. Then the heart of this people will turn again to their Lord, to Rehoboam, the king of Judah, and they will kill me and return to Rehoboam, the king of Judah. So the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold. And then he said to the people, you have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Notice the parallel, right? Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So they didn't want to be a part of David, the house of David anymore. They separated and then made golden calves, okay? And he mirrors the language of Aaron, mirrors the exact language. And he set one in Bethel and he put the other in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went as far as Dan to be before one. And he made temples on the high places, Bama. Bama is an interesting word. High place, Bama. Let's see if I can find that. Okay, so Bama is not just a mountain, it can be a platform as well. So you know when you go into a church or a stadium or whatever, and you have people up on a stage or up on a platform, that in a sense is a high place, a bama, right? And so a chapel with a high place for the preacher to stand or whatever to be up there is a high place, a bama. So worshiping at the high place is the bama, which I found really, really interesting. So he made temples on high places, bama, and appointed priests from all the people who were not of the Levites. Levi means attached one. So Levi is one who's been grafted into Jehovah. So they're attached to Jehovah. That's what Levi means. And Jeroboam appointed a feast on the 15th day of the 8th month. This year, the 15th day of the 8th month landed on Halloween, by the way. Like the feast that was in Judah, he offered sacrifices on the altar. So he did so in Bethel, sacrificing the calves that he had made. He placed in Bethel the priests of the high places that he had made. And he went to the altar that he had made in Bethel on the 15th day of the 8th month. And in the 8th month, in a month that he devised from his own heart, it was not in scripture, Christmas, and he instituted a feast for the people of Israel, and he went up to the altar to make offerings. So it's interesting to note that these high places, they were always connected with, in the Canaanite religions, they were connected. You'd have an altar, a high place, and then you'd have a tree for Asherah. So you'd have an Asherah tree beside the altar. So when you look at these high places in these churches that we have nowadays, right? The bama in the churches, you've got your high place, your raised platform, And then during the month of December, on the day that they've devised in their own heart, you have two or three or more trees usually, which is an exact replication of this practice, which is the Asherah with the high place and all of that stuff. And that is a thread that goes throughout Scripture. Like, it's not even hard to find this thread that goes throughout Scripture. It's very easy. It's very obvious when you've gone through it multiple times. This is not me pushing the text at all. It's very obvious when you've gone through it enough times. And behold, the man of God came out of Judah, and by the word of Jehovah to Bethel, by the word of Jehovah to Bethel, Jeroboam was standing at the altar to make offerings. And the man cried against the altar by the word of Jehovah and said, O altar, thus says Jehovah, behold, a son shall be born to the house of David, Josiah by name, and he shall sacrifice on you the priests of the high places who make offerings to you, and human burns shall be burned on you. So a man of Jehovah came to the altar that Jeroboam had burnt and said this: a son shall be born to the house of David, Josiah by name, and he shall sacrifice on you the priests of the high places who make offerings on you. That's heavy. And human bones shall be burnt on you. And he gave a sign the same day, saying, this is the sign that Jehovah has spoken. Behold, the altar shall be torn down, and the ashes that are on it shall be poured out. Remember the adulterous bride? Ashes, adulterous bride, poured out, water, ashes, adulterous bride, okay? And then when the king heard the saying of the man of God, he cried against the altar at Bethel. Jeroboam stretched out his hand from the altar, saying, seize him. And his hand, which he stretched out against him, dried up, so that he could not draw it back to himself. And the altar was torn down, and the ashes poured out from the altar, according to the sign of the man of God that had given to the word of Jehovah. And the king said to the man of God, entreat now the favor of Jehovah, your Elohim, and pray for me that my hand may be restored to me. And the man of God entreated Jehovah, and the king's hand was restored to him, and he became as it was before. And the king said to the man of God, come home with me and refresh yourself, and I will give you a reward. And the man of God said to the king, if you shall give me half your house, I will not go with you, and I will not eat bread or drink water in this place. For it was commanded to me by the word of Jehovah, saying, you will either eat bread nor drink water, nor return the way that you came. So he went another way and did not return by the way he came to Bethel. Another interesting symbol in this story is the hand withering up. You're going to see the hand wither up with Moshe soon. Moshe is going to put his hand inside the cloak, and it's going to be healed. He's going to pull it out. It's going to be leprous. The hand is a symbol of your work that you're accomplishing, right? So we get a mark on our hand. The hand is the picture of the things that you are doing in life, okay? So his hand withering up is a picture of his authority and reign withering up, right? Because he's been so disobedient that his strength is withering up, okay? Let's leave that there, and let's go back to the Torah portion. The command to leave Sinai. We're at verse 33, chapter 33, verse 1.
Said to Moses, depart, go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your offspring I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. But I will not go up among you, lest I consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people. When the people heard this disastrous word, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. For the Lord had said to Moses, say to the people of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go up among you, I would consume you. So now take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you. Therefore the people of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Now Moses
Okay, this is one of my favorite sections. So the people had already taken off their earrings and jewelry to make the golden calf. So this picture of ornaments is that ornamentation of Egypt. It's stripping yourself of all the ornamentation throughout scripture is the things that have decorated you from the doctrine that you understand. Okay, so when you look at decorating a tree, a Christmas tree, right, you're putting the ornamentation on the tree. Okay, um all of these practices that they had from Egypt, like the golden calves, like the statues, like all these things that they had in Egypt, that was ornamentation from their understanding of Egypt, the things that they understood, right? It's the decoration, right? And so it's this picture of laying that all down. Take it all off, like you're removing the leaven and all of that stuff. Take it all off and be willing to know him for who he is, rather than trying to take all this stuff from the past and bring it in, right? He wants to show you who he is in his purest way, right? That is that picture of ornamentation. Okay. And we know that because they already burnt their earrings and all that stuff. They already put that stuff in the fire. Okay. So that's the picture. It's like, take off your ornaments. Now, this is really interesting. When you dig into the Hebrew of this, the Hebrew text, I think I can show you in my manuscript. Let me see if it shows up on this manuscript. 1 second. 33:1, Exodus 33. I haven't checked if it shows up on here. I think I have to look it up on the. It's really cool if I could show you this. I'm not sure that I can. I should. Okay, let's see if we can find it. Yep. Okay. But I have to find the other one. Let's do this. Trust me, it's worth it. Just a sec. Just a sec. It's worth it. Oh, what is this? Why are you doing that? Can I do this? Okay, I'll show you it the easy way. Okay. I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay. Horeb in Hebrew, which is the same, it's the same meaning, it's the same mountain as Sinai. Okay. So Mount Horeb. So look at the 3 letters. Okay. This is the name of the mountain, Horeb. 3 letters. This is all of it. Like this is Exodus 3. Okay. So this is Exodus 17. It's all the same, all the same. Just mountain, all the same. Okay. When you get to this verse, where the people laid down their ornaments. You get to the verse where the people laid down their ornaments. There's, sorry, so it's right here, okay? Look at the Vav. They added the Vav in there. The Vav wasn't there before. So when they lay down their ornaments, that Vav appears, okay, on the mountain. That Vav is the hand of God, okay? It's the joining. The Vav, to me, in my understanding, this is just Midrash, take it or leave it. The Vav to me is this understanding of heaven connecting to earth. So when they were willing to lay down their ornaments, they were willing to put it down. That's when the Vav came and connected. Now, what's the first Vav that we see in Scripture? Why can't I just go to Genesis? Why does it go in Isaiah? I just want to go to Genesis. Verses. Can I just go? Computers are helpful, but then also sometimes they're like I don't understand why it just won't. There we go. Okay. Can I make this smaller? Okay. Bereshit. This is that bet that I showed you before, right? It's a tent. The bet, the first letter of the scripture is a bet. It's a picture of a tent. That's his plans and purposes, to build a tabernacle with his people, a nation that follows him no matter what. Bereshit bara Elohim et ha shamayin ve et. Okay, so this is the first vav in scripture. Okay, the first vav in scripture, what does it do? Heavens and et haaretz, heavens and earth. The very first vav that you find in scripture joins the heavens to the earth. That's what the first vav does in scripture, okay? So this vav showing up, I think I lost it now, but that vav showing up in the word for Oholiab is this picture of heaven connecting to earth in a deeper way, right? He's like, okay, you let down your ornaments, you get it now. Now I can connect. I can connect with you at the mountain. There's other vavs that do that too. There's another one in the story of Jacob where he reveals himself to his brothers. There's a vav that shows up. You could go look for it if you want. I'll try to find it for you and put it all together, but in a video. But there's another one in Jacob where Jacob reveals himself to his brothers, where a vav shows up in a word that wasn't there before. So they stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. So once they passed this test and they went through this refinement, from that point onward, they stripped themselves of their ornaments. Now they go to the tent of meeting. So let's start verse 7.
To take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. And everyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up, and each would stand at his tent door and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. And when all the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise up and worship, each at his tent door. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people. And he said, My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. And he said to him, If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, This very thing that you have spoken I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. Moses said, Please show me your glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But, he said, you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. And the Lord said, Behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock, and while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen.
I just want to check something. Verse 17. Is it 33? 32? 33, 17. Okay, just checking. Nothing interesting. Okay, so Moshe is going to make new tablets now. So nothing really to report here other than it's interesting. I don't understand it all. Okay, so chapter 34:1, Moshe makes new tablets.
The Lord said to Moses, Cut for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Be ready by the morning, and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. No one shall come up with you, and let no one be seen throughout all the mountain. Let no flocks or herds graze opposite that mountain. So Moses cut 2 tablets of stone like the first, and he rose early in the morning and went up on Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, and took in his hand 2 tablets of stone. The Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of the Lord. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, The Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the 3rd and the 4th generation. And Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. And he said, If now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance. And he said, Behold, I am making a covenant. Before all your people I will do marvels, such as have not been created in all the earth or in any nation, and all the people among whom you are shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you. Observe what I command you this day. Behold, I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Take care lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land to which you go, lest it become a snare in your midst. You shall tear down their altars and break their pillars, and cut down their Asherim. For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and when they whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, and you are invited, you eat of his sacrifice, and you take of their daughters for your sons, and their daughters whore after their gods, and make your sons whore after their gods. You shall not make for yourself any gods of cast metal. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month Abib. For in the month Abib you came out from Egypt. All that open the womb are mine. All your male livestock, the firstborn of cow and sheep. The firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. Or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. All the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem, and none shall appear before me empty-handed.
This is really interesting. So the firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. It's really interesting when you think about that, because what did Yeshua ride into Jerusalem on? On a donkey. The donkey is the picture of the beast of burden. It's like the burden that you carry in this life. So that when the donkey shows up, it's often a symbolic picture of somebody's going to do something that they have been called to do, and it's a bit of a burden, right? So you see that Balaam is trying to ride the donkey, and the donkey's fighting against him. You see that picture there. And then you also see a donkey show up in other parts of the scripture. Moshe was riding a donkey when he was going into Egypt to start the plague process. There's a picture of a donkey there. So it's a beast of burden. And you shall redeem the burden with the lamb. So there's a really interesting kind of play on words there.
6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In plowing time and in harvest you shall rest. You shall observe the feast of weeks, the firstfruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out nations before you, and enlarge your borders. No one shall covet your land when you go up to appear before the Lord your God 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with...
That's really interesting. No one shall covet your land when you go up to appear before Yehovah your Elohim 3 times a year. So lots of people are coveting the land. So at what point will no one covet the land? Is it because they're not going up 3 times a year? It's because not everyone is going up 3 times a year that people are coveting the land. I just think that's interesting. Anyways, carrying on.
Anything leavened, or let the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover remain until the morning. The best of the firstfruits of your ground you shall bring to the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. And the Lord said to Moses, write these words, for in accordance with these words I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments.
Okay, if I'm correct, I think that the first time, so there's the Passover, and then they go and do the sin of the golden calf, and then you have 10 days. So the second time they come down is the Feast of Shavuot. That will be the Feast of Shavuot. So he's doing an overview of all the feasts that he's setting up through these processes. So the Passover happened in Egypt, and then they did the sin of the golden calf. Then later on, they're going to get the second time they're going to be given the commands. So he's been up there 40 days now, which would line up, right?
When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand as he came down from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the people of Israel what he was commanded, the people of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face was shining. And Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went in to speak with him.
It's a really interesting picture because you think about like how a bride has her face veiled, and then when she's married, she lifts the veil. Very interesting shadow picture. I'm going to take a quick little break. I will be back in 3 to 4 minutes. And we'll go on to 1 Kings 18. I'll be right back. Okay, we're at 1 Kings 18. Getting into Elijah. Love this story.
After many days, the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. And when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said to Obadiah, Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we may find grass and save the horses and mules alive, and not lose some of the animals. So they divided the land between them to pass through it. Ahab went in one direction by himself, and Obadiah went in another direction by himself.
Obadiah means where is it? I know I wrote this down. Obadiah, one who is over the house. One who is over the house. Some interesting things about Obadiah is he perhaps was like one of the leaders in the kingdom. So he was probably one of the top dogs, which is why he had all this access to the prophets and whatnot. But Obadiah, even though he was working for Jezebel, he feared Jehovah. So he probably was in a position of power in Ahab and Jezebel's kingdom. Jezebel, now this is really interesting. So if you look up Jezebel as a name now, it means pure and virginal, but that would be from a Canaanite dialect, okay? So Canaanite dialect, the meaning of Jezebel is, I looked it up this morning. Where is it? Okay, so in the Phoenician understanding of the Semitic of Jezebel, it means to exalt, but it means to exalt Baal. Baal exalts, okay? So her name means exalting Baal in the Semitic Phoenician dialect. Okay. Whoops, that's not it. I must have closed that thing. So Zael in Hebrew means garbage. So in Phoenician, it means to exalt Baal, and Zael in Hebrew means garbage, which I thought was really, really interesting. Okay, carrying on. But if you look at it up now, it means virginal or something like that. But that's coming from the Semitic They took it from the Phoenician and they made it into that name. Okay. There's a drought and a famine. That's important to note as well. Verse 7.
And as Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him. And Obadiah recognized him and fell on his face and said, Is it you, my lord Elijah? And he answered him, It is I. Go tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, How have I sinned that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my lord has not sent to seek you. And when they would say, He is not here, he would take an oath of the kingdom or nation that they had not found you. And now you say, Go tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here. And as soon as I have gone from you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you I know not where. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find you, he will kill me, although I your servant have feared the Lord from my youth. Has it not been told my Lord what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord? How I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50s in a cave, and fed them with bread and water? And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he will kill me. And Elijah said, As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah.
Okay, I think this is really interesting too. So what does Obadiah say? As soon as I have gone from you, the Spirit of Jehovah will carry you. I know not where to. So it's that picture of, I don't know, but is it like that Elijah will just leave, or that the Spirit of the Lord will actually pick Elijah up and carry him to another place? Because we do have an example of that in Acts, right? With Philip. Philip was carried by the Spirit of the Lord from one place to another, which I am so intrigued by. Okay. Now we're at verse 17.
When Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, Is it you, you troubler of Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but you have, and your father's house, because you have abandoned the commandments of the Lord and followed the Baals. Now therefore send and gather all Israel to me at Mount Carmel, and the 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent to all the people of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah came near to all the people and said, How long will you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him.
This is the one I have to look up. So chapter 18, verse 20. Yeah. Okay. This is cool and important. So there is this picture of hopping between opinions that's happening. Okay. How long will you go limping between two different opinions? That word in Hebrew is pasak, which is a form of Pesach, which is the Passover. Okay. So it's a form of jumping around and limping and hopping around between opinions. Okay. What is the Pesach? The Pesach is deciding, it's marking your house and deciding that you follow Jehovah, right? So it's from the same. So I'll have to just show you guys. Again, just hop on the Zoom call if you want to see everything. Okay. How long will you go limping? Pesach. Okay. To spring or Passover. Okay. Now the Pesach vowel change. So see, okay, so this is the vowel right here. Pasak, Pisak. Okay, this is the E sound. Okay, Pisak, Pasak. This is the Passover. Okay, the communion meal. Communion meal. Do this in remembrance of me. Do this in remembrance of me. The communion meal. Okay. So those are, so it's kind of this is kind of this like Hebrew word play on scripture, right? Okay. Limping. How long will you go limping, pasak, between two different opinions, hopping back and forth? If Yehovah is Elohim, follow him. If Baal, then follow him. Pick your route. Now, Aaron repeats this, or I guess Aaron said it first. Was it Aaron? No, Joshua. Joshua said it first. So Elijah's repeating it. Joshua said it when they entered the. Is it when they entered the land? At some point, Joshua said it. We'll get there. At someday we'll get there. Okay. And the people did not answer. So answer him a word. So the Passover, you're getting passed over, and you're passing over, and you're moving from one opinion to another opinion, right? You didn't know Yeshua, you didn't know Yah's salvation, and now you know Yah's salvation, so you're going to follow him, right? So we don't want to start following Yah's salvation, Yeshua, and be hopping and limping still. We want to decide that we are going to follow him, because if Yehovah is Elohim, follow him. If Baal is, follow him. Don't do the limping between two opinions, right?
And the people did not answer him a word. Then Elijah said to the people, even I only am left a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given to us, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood and put no fire to it. And you call upon the name of your God, and I will call upon the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. And all the people answered, it is well spoken. Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose for yourselves 1 bull and prepare it first, for you are many, and call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. And they took the bull that was given them, and they prepared it and called upon the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped around the altar that they had made.
And they pasaked around the altar that they had made. Limping around.
At noon, Elijah mocked them, saying, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is musing, or he is relieving himself, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out upon them. And as midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation, but there was no voice. No one answered. No one paid attention.
Okay. This is one of my favorite little cheeky things in scripture that Elijah said. He says, he mocked them, saying, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is musing, or he is relieving himself, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. So a lot of these tribes and the different people at this time, their gods would have different needs. And so unlike the Most High God, who doesn't have physical needs, he is omnipresent and he is everywhere. Their gods would often have physical needs. That's why they would bring them food offerings. That's why they would bring them different offerings. I found something so freaking interesting though, you guys. So I was looking into the Epic of Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh was one of these stories where they had come up with a flood story to explain the flood. But they said that the gods decided to flood the earth because it was getting too noisy. Okay, so that's what the Epic of Gilgamesh says. It was getting too noisy. Then I go to look it up. I go to look it up so that I could show you guys this. And I'm not even kidding. When I looked this up, I was like, what? I'll have to show you. Flippy. Okay. In the myth, the gods sent the flood to solve the problem of overpopulation. I can't even make that, like, they sent the flood to solve the problem of overpopulation. Craziness. So that's apparently the Gilgamesh flood story. It was getting too noisy, and they wanted to solve the problem of all the people being too noisy and taking up space. So that's the Gilgamesh flood story. They wanted to get rid of the overpopulation, which is very similar to what's happening now. The little g gods want to get rid of the overpopulation. Yeah. Well, exactly. That's what I said. Exactly what I said. Okay, pretty wild, right? I was just looking at something about like all what the leaders are saying about overpopulation. It's like delusional. If they would just let people live on a little hunk of land and just live without having to have all their oppression on us, people would just live naturally, normally. Okay. Cutting. So remember in the last, we were reading about Exodus, and he was saying, drive out the Canaanites, drive out the Hittites, drive out these people out of the land. Because if you leave these people in the land, it's going to be a snare to you. It's going to be an issue. This was likely one of the thorns in Paul's side. I believe that is mentioned in scripture and somewhere, that it becomes a thorn in your side when you leave certain people in the land, because they end up just causing problems, right? You know that. Like if you leave certain people in your life, it causes drama, right? Because those people just bring drama. So what's really, really interesting is there is still a tribe, and I don't know if these are connected to the prophets of Baal at that time, but there's a tribe called the Shiites and I think they're mostly in Lebanon. And they actually cut themselves. Okay, so in this, when we're talking about how the people were worshiping Baal and they were cutting themselves, right? They were marking themselves in order to get Baal to respond, right? Oh, Baal, please answer us. And so they were limping around the altar, cutting themselves. Just looking for that verse. Yeah, they cried aloud and cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances until blood gushed out upon them. Okay, so trigger warning. I'm going to show you. It's not that graphic, but there is actually, the Shiites do actually have this thing where they cut themselves with swords in order to, it's not that bad, but I'll just, trigger warning, if you don't want to see it, just avert your eyes now. So these Shiites still do this to this day. They'll mark themselves and cut themselves with swords until blood gushes out. And they do this apparently in mourning of, this is modern day. They do this in mourning of one of their prophets that was killed, apparently. So just note the similarities there. Very interesting. There is also other tribes worldwide that do this. They'll do body modifications and slicing and dicing. Tattooing in certain cultures as well is a part of this. Tattooing is a blood ritual. It's a blood ritual. get as triggered by that as you want. There's nothing more fleshly than cutting your flesh and putting ink into it. It's a blood ritual. So let's move on. I'm not sure where we are. I'll just play it.
Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me." And all the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been thrown down. Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord came, saying, "Israel shall be your name." And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 seahs of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bowl in pieces, and laid it on the wood. And he said, "Fill 4 jars with water, and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood." And he said, "Do it a second time." And they did it a second time. And he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time. And the water ran around the altar, and filled the trench also with water. And at the time of the offering of the oblation, Elijah the prophet came near and said, "O Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back." Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, "The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God."
Okay, I want you to notice that these prophets that saw this, that they were the false prophets of Jezebel, they repented when they saw this. Okay, so this is what I was thinking about this week when I was looking at this yesterday. Elijah comes before Yeshua comes again, right? So the spirit of Elijah will come, right? And so the 144,000 will be able to call down fire from heaven, right? The 144,000 are going to be able to call down fire from heaven, right? This is a shadow picture of the end times. So yes, we have the false prophets doing their false prophet things. You have your false prophets even that are claiming the name of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, but still doing all the false prophet stuff. But at some point, the spirit of Elijah, right, will be here, and the 144,000 that call down fire, or maybe the 2 witnesses, I don't know how that's all going to combine, will come and they'll be calling down fire. Oh, the 2 witnesses call down fire, right? It's like the 144,000 are there and then the 2 witnesses. Anyways, I don't fully understand it yet. So the 2 witnesses are going to be calling down fire. So some people they're going to say Jehovah is Elohim, and they're going to turn back, right? They're going to fully turn their hearts back at that point. So Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Yaakov. The 12 stones, when the fire came down, the 12 stones were consumed as well. So the 12 stones are consumed with the fire when the fire comes down. So I thought that was really, really interesting too. I'm not sure what it means, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to point it out to you. That is all. I'm going to show you some other fire consuming verses. Let's go through the fire consuming verses. The first one that we want to talk about is here we go. Leviticus 9:24. And the fire came out from before Jehovah and consumed the burnt offering and the pieces of fat on the altar. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. So the fire coming down is something that when people see it, when people see the fire coming down, it's when they fall on their faces and remember Yod He Vav He. 1 Chronicles 21:26. And David built there an altar to Jehovah and presented burnt offerings and peace offerings. And he called on Jehovah, and Jehovah answered him with fire from heaven upon the altar of the burnt offering. 2 Chronicles 7:1. And Shlomo finished up his prayer. And as soon as Shlomo had finished up his prayer, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Jehovah filled the temple. Now, there's one more that's mentioned in 2 Maccabees. So if you go to 2 Maccabees, verse 18, on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, that's December, around December, we celebrate the festival of rededication. And just as we celebrate the festival of shelters, booths, okay? We thought it important to remind you of this so that you may celebrate this festival. In that way, you will remember how fire appeared to Nehemiah. Fire appeared when Nehemiah offered sacrifices after he rebuilt the temple and the altar. So the idea is they were not able to do the first Sukkot because they didn't have the temples and the altars, so that when Nehemiah actually went and rebuilt the temples and the altars, they say that fire appeared. Okay, that I haven't found in scripture, but it's in 2 Maccabees. So that fire appeared when they did the Feast of Rededication, because they moved the Feast of Rededication. They moved the Feast of Booths later and did the Feast of Rededication. That's why they have Hanukkah, because they didn't have a temple to do Hanukkah in. So they did it a month later, right? At that time, when our ancestors were being taken into exile in Persia, a few devout priests took some fire of the altar and secretly hid it in the bottom of a dry cistern. They hid the fire so well that no one ever discovered it. Years later, when it pleased God, the Persian emperor sent Nehemiah back to Jerusalem, and Nehemiah told the descendants of those priests to find the fire. They reported to us that they had found no fire, but only some oily liquid. Nehemiah then took them to scoop some out and bring it to them. When everything for the sacrifice had been placed on the altar, he told the priest to pour the liquid over the wood and the sacrifice. And this was done, and some time had passed, and the sun appeared from behind the clouds, and suddenly everything on the altar burst into flames. Everyone looked on in amazement. And then while the fire was consuming the sacrifice, Jonathan the high priest led the people in prayer, and Nehemiah and all the people responded. So here's Nehemiah's prayer. Nehemiah's prayer went something like this. Yehovah Elohim, creator of all things, you are awesome and strong, yet merciful and just. You alone are king. No one but you is kind. No one but you is gracious and just. You are almighty and eternal forever to rescue Israel from trouble. You chose our ancestors to be your own special people. Accept this sacrifice which we offer on behalf of all of Israel. Protect your chosen people and make us holy. Free those who are slaves in foreign lands and gather us together, our scattered people. Have mercy on our people who are mistreated and despised, so that other nations will know that you are our Elohim. Punish the brutal and arrogant people who have oppressed us, and establish your people in your holy land, as Moshe said you would. The priests sang hymns after the sacrifices had been consumed. Nehemiah gave orders for the rest of the liquid to be poured over some large stones. Immediately a fire blazed up, but was extinguished by a flame from the fire on the altar. News of what happened spread everywhere. The Persian Empire heard about the liquid that had only been found in the place where the priests had hidden the altar fire, just before they had been taken into exile. He also heard that Nehemiah and his friends used this liquid to burn the sacrifice on the altar. When the emperor investigated the matter and found that it was true, he had the area fenced off and made into a shrine. It became a substantial source of income for him, as he used the money for gifts for gifts to anyone who is in his good favor. Nehemiah and his friends called the liquid nephthar, which means purification, but most people call it naphtha. So there you go. That's from the book of Second Maccabees. Take it or leave it. I'm just letting you know. That's what it says. Let's go to the Gospels. We're at Mark 9 today. Mark 9, verse 1.
And he said to them, truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God after it has come with power. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. And a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud. This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them, but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead might mean.
So I find it interesting because some people use this verse 1 in different ways. But he's saying, I said to them, truly I say to you, there's some standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God after it has come to power. So when Yeshua died and rose again, that's that moment where the kingdom of God came to power. It just, not everything has completely been fulfilled at this point, and not everything has completely been put back in order. But that was the moment that the kingdom of God started to come back into power, right? So some people use this as saying that we're in the millennial reign already, and they said all sorts of stuff like preterist verses and stuff, but I'm not sure that it necessarily speaks to that in any powerful way. Myself. 2 olive branches and the 2 lampstands. I always think of Elijah and Moshe as that kind of picture. So if you look at that imagery, it's like the two, like it's the 3 on the mountain again, right? You've got the Elijah picture, you've got the Moshe picture, and then you got the Yeshua picture in the middle, right? The fullness of it. And these, so when we look at the lampstand, remember I told you guys before about the lampstand, like the middle candle is a picture of Messiah coming down, and Messiah lights up all of the candles, right? And so, yeah, some people say it's Judah and Israel. Some people say it's Elijah and Moses. I just think it's interesting because you have the same kind of imagery. Some people say it's the Old Testament and the New Testament. The fact that people say so many different things about it is interesting. But anyways, I always picture that when I see like Elijah and Moshe on the mountain, and then they disappear and it's only Yeshua there, right? It's like this picture of their ministries, what they did poured in, and then all of a sudden Yeshua, what he did is the full light, right? The full understanding, the full revelation, right? Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of point of views on the 2 witnesses. I always thought Ephraim and like the 2 branches. So what are the 2 branches in Ezekiel 37? Ephraim and, let's just read it. Joseph, I think. let's just go to Ezekiel 37, because that's actual branches, right? So I think that's an image of it too, right? Then he said to me, Son of man, the bones are the whole house of Israel. So the bones are all dry, right? Behold, the whole house of Israel. So that's David and the northern kingdoms, right? Behold, they say, our bones are dried up and our hope is lost. We are indeed cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says Jehovah Elohim, behold, I will open your graves and raise you from your graves. O my people, I will bring you into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. When I open your graves and raise you from your graves, O my people, I will put my spirit within you, and you shall live, and I will place you in your own land, and then you shall know that I am Jehovah. I have spoken, and I will do it, declares Jehovah. And the word of Jehovah came to me, Son of man, take a stick and write on it for Judah, for the people of Israel according to him, and then take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel associated with him, and join them one to another into one stick, that they may become one in your hand, right? And when your people say to you, will you not tell us what you mean by these? Say to them, thus says Jehovah Elohim, behold, I am about to take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel associated with him. And I will take the stick of Judah, and I will make them one stick, that they can be one in my hand. And when the sticks on which you write are in the hand before your eyes, say to them, thus says Jehovah Elohim, behold, I will take the people of Israel from the nations among which they have gone, and I will gather them from all around, and I will bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king over them, and they shall no longer be two nations, no longer divided into two kingdoms. They shall not defile themselves any more with their idols and detestable things, with any of their transgressions. I will save them from all their backslidings in which they have sinned, and I will cleanse them, and they will be my people, and I will be their Elohim. My servant David shall be king over them. My servant David, picture of Yeshua, right? Yeshua is a descendant of David. And they shall have one shepherd, and they shall walk in my rules and be careful to obey my statutes. And they shall dwell in the land that I gave my servant Jacob, where your fathers lived, and they and their children's children shall dwell there forever. And David, my servant, shall be their prince forever, and I will make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant with them. And I will set them in their land and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in their midst forevermore. My dwelling place will be with them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Then the nations will know that I am Jehovah, I am Jehovah who sanctifies Israel, where my sanctuary is in their midst forevermore. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that today. I'm going to stop the recording. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, let me know.